expanding a customer can be up to 25 times cheaper than gaining a new one. If you think about the amount of money that you put into the acquisition funnel, the marketing efforts, the ads, the sales process, like all of the stuff that you do there is so expensive in comparison to what you already have to do anyway, in order to deliver results for customers, but just tying that all up with that expansion offer, that conversation that's more commercially driven. So when we think about the efficiency of the channels, your existing install base is the most efficient channel for you to grow your business. So if you're not doing that yet, like that is a huge gold mine that you're sitting on that can unlock huge growth for your business.
You're listening to RevOps Champions, a podcast created for B2B leaders to help you align your people, streamline your processes, trust your data, and leverage technology in order to grow your business. We're your hosts, Brendan Denewell
and Amy Weaver. Thank you, Daphne, for joining us today. You are the Director of Customer Success at HubSpot in Dublin, Ireland. We were connected when Brendan saw that you were speaking at the RevOps AF conference back at the end of May, I believe that was. And I know he wanted to ask you a little bit more detail about what you spoke about there, and that should kind of lead us into the rest of our conversation about growing revenue with the customer success team. So Brendan, I'll let you take it from here.
Daphne, you were telling us earlier, and I guess the one word that sort of caught my ear when you talked about your topic at the event was measurability, right, in CS. But would you mind just summarizing for us again what your topic was at the event?
Yeah, it's so good to be here. The topic I spoke about at the AF conference was why proving value to customers is no longer optional. And to give you a TLDR on a 40 minutes presentation, basically, I talked about the importance of measuring the results you deliver to your customers when it comes to your ability to being able to renew their contract and then for you to expand their business and gain more of their business. And I walked the audience through a framework on how to actually measure results for customers. I walked them through jobs to be done, which is a product development framework. Full transparency to the audience, I'm a recovering product manager. That's where my background is. That's where I'm taking this inspiration from. I did a master's in product management. So I'm borrowing from my background in product and really just helping connect the dots between what we build when we build SaaS products or when we design services, what we market, what promises we make to people, and then how we deliver on those promises and demonstrate to customers that we have delivered what they expected from our product so that we can earn their trust and earn the right to sell more and really unlock that land and expand strategy that everybody loves to talk about. So that's what I talked about. There's loads of different little frameworks, like I said, and tips and tricks on how to actually do this, examples. So if people are interested in this topic, I highly recommend that they go back and actually watch the recording. The recording is available, and I'm sure we can share that with the audience afterwards.
Yes, We'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, excellent. And then you mentioned jobs to be done. Is that that's a framework you use?
Yeah. So jobs to be done is a framework that was incepted by a guy called Clayton Christensen. And there is an entire Harvard Business Review article that is phenomenal. And I recommend to anybody that's interested to go also and dive into that article. First of all, it's really easy to read. It's not this massive paper, scientific paper. It's a really digestible article. But what the jobs to be done framework does is kind of what's on the tin. It's what it says on the name. What are the jobs that your customer wants to do with your product? And how do you then design products that help you deliver on those jobs? So it kind of like challenges the idea of personas and talks about, okay, if I am, let's say, take for example, a HubSpot customer, and I am buying the marketing automation tool from HubSpot, my goal with buying a marketing automation tool, most of the time is to generate demand for my business, right? I mean, I might have secondary goals there. I might want to increase the efficiency of my team, etc. But the main goal is to increase demand, generate demand. So when you think about that job, in product development, what you would do is you actually break that job down into what we call stories, and really empathize with the user, the steps that they need to take, the workflow that they need to follow, so that we can build features. But what I propose in my talk, and really what I really advocate for people, is why stop at the product development level when we use this framework? Why not extend beyond and really think about, okay, so this job that the customer wants to complete in your product, how do you measure that job has been done successfully? How do you measure that you've been able to deliver successfully over time, and you're having a positive impact on your customers' bottom line? And for example, to carry on that example I used about the HubSpot customer buying the marketing automation platform to improve, that generate demand, like the metric there that you would measure, the industry standard metric for demand generation, is leads, right? So you have to report on the number of leads, whether you're going to do email marketing, events, webinars, podcasts, whatever, ads. You're doing it because you want to generate leads. So that's the most important metric, a value metric that the customer will care about. So finding that 1-2 value metrics for each one of the jobs that your product does, and then being able to build reporting inside the product, but also into the customer success cadence of how we report value back to the customer and their progress. It's a really important thing, because the purse strings are tightening, right? Like the CFOs are looking through the budgets and saying, do we need this? Does it add value to our business? Are we going to reinvest this money somewhere else? Like, we're making this trade-off decisions right now. And you don't want to be the platform where the customer stands in front of their CFO and says, we really love using this tool, but I can't really connect back to measurable goals. That you're going to be slashed out of the budget, I can tell you that much. So it's really, really important to be able to connect that. And I think Jobs to be Done is a phenomenal framework to help you do this, because a lot of product teams are already using Jobs to be Done to develop those products.
Excellent.
So it's kind of a common language that you guys can share to solve for the customer then.
Yeah. Totally. And I think that's such an important thing, right? When sometimes it feels like the product team is speaking Chinese and the marketing team is speaking French and the customer success team is speaking Portuguese. We want to share a language, but also make the customer feel like it is truly a connected journey. That the reason why I found your website is because I was looking for a solution for a problem I have, and you marketed that to me, and now I understand your tool to be a good solution for that problem, and your sales team talked to me about this, they shared case studies with me, and now I'm seeing those results in my own business. So it's like it feels really connected and cohesive for the customer as well.
Daphne, do you think or talk much, with the rest of your team around how that translates? So from industry to industry. So it sounds like a lot of your audience, of course, and your day-to-day work is based on SaaS, right? On technology companies. And I'm guessing a lot of the people who got a lot of value from what you were saying at this event and anywhere else that you speak are probably SaaS companies and trying to figure out how they do this better. Within HubSpot, so HubSpot's target audience, I mean, I would say obviously SaaS and technology are a big target audience for HubSpot, but I know professional services is also a big market for HubSpot. And of course, and it just happens to be, our biggest target audience is professional services, consulting firms, etc. And we work with the AEC industry, so architecture, engineering, consulting, again, professional services, construction. And how do you think some of the things that the tools and frameworks that you use from a SaaS product business perspective translate into a professional services business?
I think this is such an important thing for us to talk about, because whenever we talk about value and measuring value, the first pushback that I always get from people is it's too hard to do, right? And I think professional services is one of those industries where they're like, we're providing services, we change the service that we provide every time to suit a customer, we change our offering. We are not the carriers of data. So SaaS obviously has a ton of first party data that we can track, but professional services doesn't necessarily have the same benefit. What I would say is your jobs to be done might not be as, let's say, automated and sophisticated, but your need to have that discussion at the very start of any project with a customer to say, what what goals do we have? What are the metrics? What are the KPIs that we're going to track? Both leading, right? So like during the project, we're going to track these things to make sure that we're on track. But also at the end of the project, how do we determine that this has been successful? And having that conversation early on in the sales process, in fact, not just when you win the deal and now you're going to try to put this together, but actually to weave that into your sales process is really, really important. Even if you're going to do this every single time, customized for a customer, even if it means that they're going to have to pull data from systems that you don't have access to, but to actually share that so that you can track the ongoing development of your project, the results that you achieve. I think having that mutual agreement at the very start is a really important thing. And again, if you think about professional services, you might not be in the traditional land and expand strategy that I talked about for SaaS, but repeat business is extremely important for you. Right? You want to gain more business from the same company, you want to expand with them, you want more projects, bigger projects, more complex projects, you want a retainer, like whatever that is that you're looking for, you can only really achieve that if you're able to demonstrate and communicate the value that you deliver for them. Like if you're not able to say, we finished this project successfully, we finished in time, we finished in budget, here's what you've achieved in this project, like the chances of you winning business again is not going to be super high, right? So companies want to work with partners, with agencies that actually provide value. So this is, might be a little bit, let's say, less sophisticated in how you track it, but it's equally important to do at the very start of every project. And what I would say for professional services is part of what you bring into the table when you do a project is expertise. You are the expert. You understand the industry. You understand what they should be measuring. They might not even know what they should be measuring, but they're looking at you and saying, hey, we're asking you to help us with this thing. What is that we should be tracking? How often should we be tracking these things? And I think that's where you can lend a lot of expertise, is actually helping people figure out what are the metrics that matter, that they can then go and talk to their bosses about, that they can broadcast to their business to celebrate the successes, and that ultimately are going to win you more business. So I think that, that's equally important, a little bit different than, and maybe a little bit less sophisticated, like I said, but essential if you want to continue to do business as a professional services agency.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then I guess you sort of introduced a thought that I had earlier, which is in both cases, and I think, and we can make this sort of industry agnostic, but I'm guessing based on a lot of the work that you do, do you use the bow tie funnel as part of how you think about creating value?
I don't personally use the bow tie funnel. In HubSpot, we use the flywheel. I don't know if you've heard of that concept. So we
Yes, of
use
course, yeah.
flywheel a lot, which is, again, what I end up actually really using beyond HubSpot when I try to explain this cycle of, acquiring a customer, delivering the value, and then, gaining their business again and again, and like creating this motion. But yeah, the bow tie, I think, is the kind of the same idea in the sense that like you're continuously going around this journey of delivering value, capturing new business, delivering more value, and hopefully you get to do that for a very, very long time with your customer.
Yeah, and I think for the visual listeners, I think you can, if you took a bow tie and you started spinning it, it essentially becomes a flywheel, right? So I think it probably serves the same purpose. Well, in sort of more traditional types of businesses, which again, professional services, and specifically in the architecture, engineering, construction space, which are more traditional businesses, they don't necessarily think about those types of frameworks. Again, most leaders in that space are familiar with the sales funnel, but they're not as familiar as they're not as familiar with the bow tie funnel, which is how do you then grow and how do you measure the value of growing your existing customers versus just continuously going out for net new customers. But actually, that might be an interesting conversation for another day. Is like what do the flywheel and the bow tie funnel? What are the similarities and the differences?
Yeah, I want to make a point on what you said there about gaining the expansion of an existing customer, or the kind of regaining of that business. We did a research a few months ago, and this is a data point that I actually share on my presentation, that uh, expanding a customer can be up to 25 times cheaper than gaining a new one. If you think about it, the amount of money that you put into the acquisition funnel, the marketing efforts, the ads, the sales process, like all of the stuff that you do there is so expensive in comparison to what you already have to do anyway, in order to deliver results for customers, but just kind of like tying that all up with that expansion offer, that conversation that's more commercially driven. So when we think about the efficiency of the channels, your existing install base is the most efficient channel for you to grow your business. So if you're not doing that yet, like that is a huge gold mine that you're sitting on that can unlock huge growth for your business.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah.
And of course, it's just, most people have heard the saying, the best customers are the ones you already have. But I think what you're reminding us of is how do you make that measurable? In other words, how do you take that and say, okay, well, if your best customers are the ones that you already have, what does that mean, and how do you create a growth strategy around that? And that's really I guess what we're trying to dig into more. But it does start with the basics of do you agree that your best customers are the ones you already have? Because I think it is a mindset that you don't have to be inefficient as far as spending all the money in sales and marketing to go and get net new consistently when you have a great opportunity to actually expand and add value, and therefore grow your business through existing customers or clients.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true.
I wonder if this is a good opportunity to talk about your podcast. This is Growth. I noticed that this season, the current season, season 3, is all about transforming your customer success team into the second growth engine of your business. So I'd love to kind of dig into that some more.
I just wrapped up season 3, which has been so exciting to do. I decided to do really what was a masterclass in creating a revenue generating customer success team, a customer success team that can be responsible for delivering value, driving satisfaction, but actually on capturing that value back to your business as well. Because ultimately, let's face it, we're not doing customer success from the goodness of our hearts. We're doing it because it's good for business, right? We're doing it because when we deliver value for our customers, we get to retain them, we get to grow them. So for me, it was all about creating the foundations, or helping people create the foundations for value delivery and then value capture. And one of the things in this season that I cover is we talk about the customer journey, right? Like really architecting this structure for your business where what are the different moments that matter, what you have to deliver in those, the conversations you have to have, so that you set up yourself for success when that project ends and you have to have a conversation of like, what else can we help you with? Or if you're in SaaS, when you get to that renewal point, when you have to have that conversation about signing for another year, expanding, that you're set up for success for that conversation. So we really talk about like the structures that you have to set up for your team. But another piece that we talk about that's really interesting is a lot of customer success teams are great at delivering value. They're not so great at measuring and communicating. Obviously, we already talked about the measure point, but the communication of value piece. There's really interesting research by a guy called Greg Danes, and he has data on thousands of SaaS companies, and he looked at like the reasons why customers churn, and the number one reason why customers churn is because they didn't get enough value from the tool, right? So that's if you deliver value, you fix that. But the second biggest reason customers churn is because they don't know what value they got. So they are unclear on whether this has resulted in anything. Did it solve the problem? Did it make an impact on their team? And oftentimes those customers, they go to another business, right? Like if your agency can't help them with this problem, or if they feel like they didn't get enough from you, or they don't know what they got from you, they're going to go and they're going to find someone else to solve that problem, because they still have that problem. They still have that pain point. They still want to know what to do about it. They're just not getting that from you. And that's when you see a lot of customers kind of moving into competitors, bringing in new players into the ecosystem, is because you haven't done really a good job of communicating the value you deliver in words that actually resonate with them, in metrics that actually resonate with them. So yeah, the season has been really, really cool to have these conversations with people who are really experts in value engineering, value communication, and really debunking some myths as well. I think a lot of customer success people, they identify as not being salespeople. Like that's that's literally how they identify themselves. And when you're asking them to capture value back, you're kind of tapping into that discomfort, or that
Fear.
identity, that fear, exactly. So we talk a lot about that as well in the final episode. So it's been a phenomenal season and really enjoyable. If you are looking to find or to learn more ways to implement this idea of customer-led growth in your business, if you want to create that second growth engine that Amy talked about, this is a great season for you to tune in.
Really cool. And Daphne, and what are you planning for season 4?
I think I'm back to my regular schedule. I usually podcast once a month. This season I did it once a week, so it was really like a condensed, like every single week there was a new lesson dropping in. So I'm back to my normal schedule once a month on the podcast. I'm going to bring video for the first time. My podcast has always been audio, so this is a new medium for me that I'm going to be
Very
exploring.
exciting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this season is I'm really honing in on like the technologies that help people scale customer success. So my first conversation was with a company called Maple. They're super exciting tech platform that basically just connects customers in the long tail of SaaS. So those really, really small customers that you might not have a ton of time to spend with technology consultants that can help them unlock the value of the platform. So it's just talking to a ton of different exciting businesses on how their technology can help companies grow using that customer-led growth strategy.
Excellent.
Nice. Well, that's a great segue. Honestly, we talk about technology all the time with our guests. So what are some tools that you're aware of that are really helping to empower the customer success teams?
I'm not biased whatsoever, but I think HubSpot is really the center of the solar system when it comes to delivering value for customers, creating that customer journey. Like your CRM is really, where everything combines and comes together. I'm a big fan of the fact that HubSpot has marketing, sales, services all under the same roof. Because again, one of the big problems in customer success is when you're trying to get information and it's siloed and it's fragmented and you can't report on it, and you spend more time collecting data than actually doing anything with the data that you collect. So I think having a strong CRM at the center of everything that you do is like number one. If you're starting from zero, I would start with a CRM tool. then around the CRM, I think depending on your business, depending on your maturity, you can use a bunch of different things. There are a lot of very interesting customer success platforms. We call them CSPs. If you have a mature customer success process that needs its own tool to be managed, you can integrate that to the CRM, and your customer success team will manage their processes from there. You think about a sales pipeline, or you think about a project management structure, like the CSM needs a place to really understand what's happening with the customers and to act on it. So if you're mature enough, a CSP would do that for you. I'm a big fan of conversation intelligence. We have some of that in the CRM, but some companies use that externally with things like Gong. And I say that because in customer success, coaching your team is one of the most important aspects of ensuring you have that value delivery, right? You have people that are working with customers every day. Like, how are they talking to them? What problems are customers trying to solve? What are the skills that we need to build in order to help them solve those problems? So conversation intelligence for me it's a big one, and it's actually a great source of insights for product, insights for risks. So I would say that's a big one for me. What else is on the stack? I think AI is all the rage. I think we've only gone about 25 minutes without talking about AI.
We made it 25 whole
Yeah,
minutes.
I know. So obviously, companies like HubSpot are integrating AI straight into where people work to make it easy for you to actually understand the use case. Like, you can write your emails, your landing pages, etc. So I think more and more companies are baking that into their products to help people. But I think ChatGPT is a phenomenal tool for a company that, if you're starting customer success and you're trying to build processes and playbooks and templates and all that kind of stuff, like, I think it's such a great asset for you to not start from zero, for you to start from a really good base. I highly recommend that you don't just copy and paste while you get there, that you think critically about what you're being given. It's important to contextualize that stuff, but I think ChatGPT is like really, really great. What else? I'm trying to think about something that people might not use as often. Community platforms. I think that when you think about customer success, a lot of the time you think about the high touch customer success, person to person. But I think if you are a big enough company, you have hundreds of customers, they can benefit from learning from each other, right? They can benefit from the conversations that they can have about the problems that they share. So putting them all together in a community. Communities don't just happen. You have to moderate them, you have to invest in them. But I think a good community software can help you unlock the power of the community, can help you understand the impact of the community to your business. So those are some of the tools I think that would be great. But I would say all of that with the grain of salt of, it all depends on your maturity, right? It's like, don't go buying 10 different tools to try and solve problems that you don't yet have. Be resourceful, start small. It's fine to start on the spreadsheet. It's fine to start kind of on a workaround inside the CRM until you're big enough to need the next thing. So that would be my advice for people.
A previous guest put it a little bit of a different way, but same advice really. It's do the things manually and then take those manual processes and figure out the pieces that it makes sense to automate. And I think that's what you're getting at is when you've got one or two or three or even five people working on something, you can do those manual steps. Once you want to scale that out to a team of 20 or 50 or 100, that's when you have to start thinking of incorporating technology to streamline some of that.
Yeah, I say effective before efficient. There's no point in doing something 1,000 times if it doesn't work. So I think that definitely make sure that whatever you're putting in place, that's actually yielding results, that's working for your business before you actually start scaling it and delivering to everyone. Because, a bad email delivered 1,000 times is way worse than a bad email delivered once.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a really good point.
I really like that.
Hmm.
Daphne, so, whenever we're talking about technology, and of course in the we're somehow it's related to RevOps and go to market, etc. How do you think about CS in relation to RevOps? And sort of whether you call it RevOps or RevOps as a go to market model, how does CS fit into that, or how do they fit together, should I say, from your perspective?
First of all, I think CS is like the forgotten child of revenue operations. All the energy, the time, the investment, it all goes into the marketing efforts, the sales efforts, and then customer success is left to fend for itself. So the first thing I'll say is that and it's kind of it's funny, if not tragic, the fact that actually most of the revenue of your business actually lies on your customers. So you're spending all the energy and the resource to get more revenue, but not to protect the revenue that you have. So I think it's about time that we change that. It is changing, I have to say. Especially, I think we've been forced to change that dynamic because acquisition has become so much harder and so much more expensive. We can no longer fill the bucket in the same speed that we lose customers. So it's important to really protect what you have in there. But I would say in terms of like how we work together, I like the model of revenue operations being kind of under one roof, because when I think about the systems that enable customer success, they are so deeply connected to the systems that sales uses, the systems that marketing uses. And when it all works together, it means that the information that sales gets from the sales process is transferring to the customer success team seamlessly. It means that what we learn about our customers, we can refine our message with, we can target existing customers with marketing content to help them scale and grow with and get results. So I think when it all works together, it's beautiful. And I think having the systems that support that is really important. Having people who understand the interconnectedness of those systems is really, really important. So I like the concept of revenue operations. I like CS ops being inside of RevOps and being an equal partner to the two other pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
And I think like on a day-to-day basis, I can tell you that my operations partners at HubSpot, they're like some of the most important partnerships that I have. If I want to run my business well, I need them. I can't do my job without them. I need them to help me with my processes, to understand the insights from my own team, so I can double down on the things that work and stop doing the things that don't work. So yeah, they're my right arm. I talk to them every single week. They talk to my team nearly every single day, because obviously people have questions and issues and things like that. So I would say it's a tight partnership if you want to get the most out of it.
And they're helping you make decisions, right? To your point about what's working, what's not. You can feel confident in a decision whether to stop doing something or start doing something new if you have all the data that you need to make that decision.
Yeah, and I would say like they are partners in this, right? I hear from some people in different teams that their operations team kind of feels like the note taker or the task doer, but they are not part of the strategic conversation. In HubSpot, actually, we call our operations, the CS operations team, strategy and operations. They're not just operations; they're actually helping inform strategy. They're making recommendations. They're pushing the envelope to create innovative solutions, because they can see the problems that multiple people have in the business and that the customers have. So really, they're partners. They're not just like I ask them for something and they give it to me. We're thinking through the challenges together.
Yeah, there's that other layer of the data and reporting that's the insights that you get from it. And so there's the strategy piece that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which is why we like to call them champions. Because I agree that the RevOps has such a critical role enabling the entire organization to be better. But if you don't include the strategic work that they do more clearly for the rest of the company to see, they only become champions sort of unexpectedly. But I think they should be seen as champions from the beginning. Your career has taken you through roles in CX, CS, account management, leadership, and growth strategies. Can you share your perspective on how CS, CX leadership and growth strategies all tie together?
Yeah, I mean, I almost see them as all the same thing, right? So, like the customer experience is obviously every single thing that touches your customer. And that would be the product that you build, the marketing you do, the sales process you have, the customer success that you deliver, the support, like every single thing would touch the customer experience. So I think that like that's the underlying the underpinning foundation of everything that you do. And actually it's interesting because when a company doesn't really have a clear strategy for their customer experience, you see a lot of friction because every team goes at it in a different way, and they create different models, and it actually confuses the customer a lot. So having that united strategy is important, and for me that starts at the top, right? If you have a C-level team that isn't cohesive on the strategy of the business, then everybody else is trying to fill holes, right? And kind of figure out what it is that they should be doing. So I think it starts at the top. Like the tone for the customer experience is set at the top. The standard, the bar, the model, the strategy, that's all set at the leadership level. And then it cascades down to the teams. I always say form follows function, which is a quote that I'm stealing from an architect, Mies van der Rohe. And this is something that I carry very close with me. It's like before we start putting shape into a process, into what a screen is going to look for a customer, like what is it that we are trying to do? Like what function are we trying to solve for? And like really design based on that. So I'll say customer experience is the underpinning foundation set by the leadership team. Obviously, the execution of that then flows into the teams. That I think the growth strategy is the same thing as your business model, right? Like if you're going to go, for example, if you're a SaaS business and you're going land and expand and you're going small deals, and from then you're going to expand and expand and expand, you need the processes to marry that, right? You need your systems to support that. You need your pricing to support that. Like every single thing will fall into place once you decide what's, from our business model perspective, what strategy are we using to grow. And in your customer experience will be impacted by that too, right? So like whether you allow somebody to buy seats in your product very easily to expand their licenses, or whether you expect them to have a very big conversation to scope a project every single time that you're going to sell into a new project. So I think all of those decisions are kind of strategic decisions that are tightly connected, and they determine the function and the form of your organization. And then customer success is the execution of one part of that journey, right? Customer success is the handshake between sales, right? When a customer signs that deal and they say, we're ready, we're going to trust our business to you. Now it's like, okay, we're ready. Let's start executing together. Let's onboard you. Let's start that project. Let's deliver. Let's implement, and continuously monitor your success and drive you towards that and challenge you when you're not moving in the right direction. Let's do that so that we can execute on our growth strategy, which is that expansion strategy. So I think it's like it's kind of like a pyramid, upside down pyramid. Now that I think about it, for me, it's like the customer experience, then the growth strategy, and then the customer success falls into that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Good visual.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, what sort of traits would you say make up teams that are successful and maybe have an easier time expanding versus the ones that things are a little more clunky, disorganized, and they haven't quite gotten totally aligned for growth?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. And actually, one of the questions that kind of led me to build the season 3 of the podcast were really the foundations for customer led growth. I think the number one thing that the teams that are successful have on the teams that are not successful is this deep understanding of what it is that we deliver for customers. Like what is it that what is our competitive advantage? Why do people come to us? Why do we win businesses? Like what do our customers want to do? They have that deep understanding. And it's not an understanding that has been built in a silo, it's an understanding that has been crafted cross-functionally. So it's the products team's understanding, is the sales team's understanding, is the like with a shared understanding of our customers and what drives value for them. Like that is number one. Like teams that align on that, like everything falls into place, right? Because the marketing process you design will make those promises and attract the right kind of customer. Then the sales process will disqualify the customers that are not a good fit. And then the CS process will deliver the value that we know we are capable of delivering and over delivering on our promises. So that first piece of understanding, and that's why I'm so passionate about the value delivery topic, because if you don't get that right, nothing else will be right. So that's number one. Then the number two thing, I think it's you can call it consulting, right? And that, I know this is a very high level word to use, but it's the ability to match customers' challenges, customers' desires and needs to the product or the service that you can offer, and do that with authority. Do that based on the fact that you have the expertise, the knowledge, and build that really trusting relationship, a trusted advisor relationship, to the point that the customer actually, for the lack of a better word, actually respects what you have to say, right? Like you come into the conversation and they're like, okay, here's Daphne. She knows what she's talking about. She understands the industry. She understands her product. She understands my pain points. She took the time to really get to know my business. Now she's going to make recommendations. I trust her, right? So that is like, if you don't have that in customer success, like you're not going to be successful. I know that's kind of the same for sales, right? If you can't build that trust quickly with the prospect, that you're not going to succeed. But in customer success, particularly important because those are long relationships, right? It's not just like a few conversations. Like you're going to be meeting every week for 2 years with a customer, so you need to really nail that piece. So that consulting muscle is really important. And then the third one is, for me, this data driven decision making that we talked about, the partnership with the CSSO, CSSO and HubSpot, but strategy and operations teams, is, do you know what's working? Right? We're all filled with biases, right? Like I launch a project I'm passionate about, I think is great. If I don't have the numbers, like I'm going to be blindsided by the fact that I'm close to this project. I enjoy the people I work with. I think the slides we build are beautiful. So, if I don't have the numbers to actually correlate back to say, oh, we did this thing and we're seeing the impact, we're seeing the results. Like being the data driven and having insights is a really important thing for any team. Because if you keep investing money and resources and time on the things that don't work, like you're not going to be successful in the long run. And finally, I will say that for customer success, you need to be commercially minded. Again, like the entire season was about building revenue generating customer success teams. I feel like being commercially minded everywhere is important, right? Like if you understand how businesses work, how we make money, why we make the decisions we make, you're going to be more successful no matter where you are in sales, marketing, customer success, operations. It really doesn't matter. Like that commercial mindset is a really important one. But in customer success, specifically important because you are living in the intersection between two businesses and you have to create win-win scenarios, right? How can I create a win for my customer that's also a win for my business? Because if you create win-win scenarios, you're going to go very far. But if you are creating one-sided win scenarios, like if you ask any customers, like, what do you want? They want everything you can give them. They want all the results, but they want to pay nothing. Like that's what they want, right? If you ask me what I want, I would say that as well. It's like I want A, B, and C, and I want to pay nothing for it. So you have to be able to be commercially minded to understand that businesses that create one side wins, whether it's just for your business or just for the customer businesses, they don't drive, they don't do very well. So you have to be able to create those win-win scenarios and continuously be able to I want to say negotiate, but I don't mean negotiate as in like this back and forward negotiation that people usually think about when they think about negotiation, but it's really a process of over time negotiating, like what is important to your business, how much you're willing to pay for it, and how much are you willing to sacrifice to get X done. Like you're continuously in this process of creating those win-win scenarios to make sure that the relationship is financially feasible. So I'd say those are the main things for me. There's obviously psych safety, culture, a bunch of other stuff that I think is important in order for you to have like a functioning, healthy team. But I'm sure I'm definitely not the most qualified person to give a lesson on that. So I'll leave you at the stuff on customer success that I really know works.
Yeah, some things that stood out to me from what you said were like solutions oriented people that are looking to solve problems and use data to support, the decisions that they're making. And then there was an element of collaboration as well, it seems like.
Thank you so much for joining us today. But before we go, is there one sort of piece of advice that you'd like to share with the audience, whether it's from a CS perspective or any other perspective, when it comes to putting the customer at the center of everything that we do? What advice do you have?
I would say I'll go back to the start of our conversation and say, no matter how hard it seems for you to be able to measure value, go through the pain of figuring out what that is, because without that, nothing else is going to work. You don't want to build a castle on sand, right? You want to build on a foundation of value and a foundation that you can stand on, that you can shout about, that you can tell the market you're delivering on the promises. So make sure that you spend that time, no matter how hard it is. And sometimes it is going to be hard. It's not going to be straightforward. Like, you generate leads, you measure leads. That's a very easy way of like kind of getting to that conclusion. It's not going to be easy every single time, but you can definitely do it. And not to be too long about this, but I worked advising a company in the AI construction industry, and it was really interesting use case because their product is AI cameras that monitor construction sites and really look at the potential accidents to notify site managers on whether there is anything that's not compliant, for them to solve those issues straight away so that they avoid accidents, damage, etc. So if their product is doing what it does well, nothing happens. Like literally, their value is nothing, and nothing happens at all. And that's the value that they create. And we're able to really like brainstorm and think about like an alert system that in a priority and severity issue to those alerts, to be able to communicate back to customers that nothing was happening and that was a positive thing, because we avoided X many accidents and they could have been of a certain severity, etc. So I always like this example because I say to people, if a company whose value is that nothing happens can find a way of measuring value, so can you. So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good. Really good. Well, Daphne, thanks again so much for joining us.
Yeah, this has been great. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you too. Thank you for having me.